it's just a suggestion. So you're always welcome to take what it is that I'm doing and follow along with it exactly, or modify it, or choose something completely different. With that, we'll get started on our mats today. So I'd like for you to start off seated on your mat. And my favorite way to come to a seated position is to do so stacked on one or two blankets. Let me just make sure my angle's okay there. So I'm going to sit up onto one or two folded blankets so that I'm high up on the throne, hips a little bit higher than my knees, and then just shift and shimmy around. There's no right or wrong way to come to sit here. You could have legs crossed, legs extended, and you're always welcome instead to come on to a chair if that's more comfortable for you. Leaning way forward, maybe pulling back a little bit on the fleshy bits of your seat just to find yourself rooted right on top of the sitting bones. So there's these bony protrusions right at the base of your seat, and coming up to sit onto those bony protrusions. And then allowing for the weight of your body to fall heavy. So shifting yourself forward and back so that the weight of your spine feels like it's floating on top of the hips. The neck feels like it's floating on top of the spine. And you can shift and adjust the shape of your spine a little bit. So if you feel like one part of your back is making more efforts than the other parts of your back, likely you're in a little bit of a curve. So see if you can kind of shift forward, back, try to even out all of those, or iron out all of those creases to make the most amount of space possible for the lungs. Arms hanging heavily like empty coat sleeves. And as you breathe in and out through the nose, notice the breath coming in through the nasal cavities, maybe down the throat, filling the lungs, exhaling out through the nose if possible. If it benefits you, you're welcome to let your gaze fall on one single point or to close through the eyes and take just a few moments here to really land on your mat. Find yourself fully immersed in this moment. Notice the weight of your seat, the way the breath feels as it touches the top of your lip. And for just a moment, listen with your ears to the space that you're in. Sound of your breath, but also the humming of the lights or the heat. Then listen a little further just outside your window or just outside your door to the building that you're in. And then listen as far as your ears will listen. And then bring that sense of hearing back to the adjacent room, back to the room that you're in, and then back to the sound of your own breath. Let's try to integrate that deep of a connection and awareness of breath as we begin to move, noticing or considering rather the breath to be as though it's weaving us between the movements. So when you next inhale, notice yourself firmly rooted on both sitting bones. And as you exhale, placing your left hand to the floor, take a side bend over to the side. Then inhale, come back to center, and exhale to the other side. So as you do this, as you come through center, try to imagine yourself between two waterfalls. So as you lean to the side with your breath, you're neither leaning forward nor leaning back. coming back to center, imagine a barrel beside you. And as you come to the side, you're lifting up and over the barrel. So you're not just collapsing onto one side here. Really try to notice the breath moves first, then your body follows. We'll just do this one more time per side. Be sure that the shoulder's not plunging towards the ear as you hinge. To the other side. And as you come back to center, if you're not already there, position your legs as the one is sort of tucked in front of the other. So you're not really a cross-legged shape. It's kind of like a square shape. So when you look down, the ankle's in front of the ankle. Pull back on the fleshy bits of the seat and keep your spine long. You're just going to reach yourself forward here. So reaching yourself forward, coming forward from your sternum forward, keeping the spine long as though the back of the head, the heart, and your tail are all on the same plank of wood. Maybe feeling a little bit of an extra sensation to the outer thigh of the leg that's in front. And then curve yourself forward, just ragdoll forward, look towards your chin, roll back up so the head is the last to lift. And we're going to switch the opposite leg to go in front. So it may feel a little foreign. If you're feeling it all tight in the knees or any pulling in the knees or the hips, you're always welcome to use your rolled towel or blanket underneath your thighs. And again, pull back on the fleshy bits, hinging yourself forward from those hip creases. I kind of like to sort of slither my hips out, or my spine out from my hips, keeping your back nice and engaged so that it's as though the back of the head, the back of the heart, and the tail are on the same imaginary plank of wood. Taking another inhalation with your breath as you exhale, ragdolling forward, rounding the turtle shell back. You can use your hands walking towards you to lift yourself back up towards center and find yourself seated once again. Now, if you are sitting on a blanket, you might, for this next component, just slide yourself off of the blanket. We're just going to do one more practice in this seated shape before we transition. So sliding those blankets out of the way. And we're going to have two options. So the first option is seated just as I'm seated here. So the focus here is on your front leg. So for me, it's my left leg, where the hip is in line with the knee and the ankle is in line with the knee. So your front leg is making like a 90-degree or a right angle. The other leg, it doesn't matter what it's doing. Could be out in front of you, could be to the side. This is option number one. In this option, you might choose to be up on a blanket so that it's a little easier to connect to those sitting bones. Option number two is to lean towards your front leg and then pivot onto your back leg. So you come to this double 90-90 position. So you have a right angle of your front leg, and when you look back, a right angle of your back leg. You might notice that your seat, so if you're copying me, the left leg is in front, the right leg's behind. And you might notice your right seat is kind of lifted off the ground a little bit, which is totally fine. This is deer pose or 90-90. Take a moment to pause to find your breath once again. And then slowly and patiently extend your thigh from the back a little bit away from you and sink that back seat down as low as you can. So your right seat goes down. It might move a little bit, it might move a lot. From whichever position you're in, we're going to start to little circles of the torso on top of the pelvis. So leaning forward, keeping the spine long to the side, back and to the side. That's within your control. Circling a couple times in one direction, a couple times in another. Really working to keep the core engaged here so that The muscles around the spine are supporting yourself seated tall, and your spine stays in this neutral shape. After you've done a few circles each direction, we're going to switch to the other side. So starting off with option number 1, 90 degrees with your front leg. So we've got the right leg in front this time. If you're the same as me, it doesn't matter if you're on opposite legs. Knee in line with hip, knee in line with foot, making like a square shape here. Maybe taking the second option to come to 90-90 or deer pose. And when you look down, making sure you see sort of rectangle or square shapes as opposed to triangles. And then circling yourself around here. So drop down as heavy as you can through that back seat and then start your little circles. One direction and circles in the other direction. Once you've done a couple circles both ways, we'll come back to center. Eventually the goal would be having your sitting bones both grounded equally. I'm not quite there yet, while keeping the spine nice and long. Let's transition now out of this shape and onto your hands and your knees. So try to find a position that allows you to stretch into the length of your spine. But if your knees are too far back, you might be kind of bowing the back or dropping the belly down. If your knees are too close, you might be arching the back. So you're going to try to find what feels like neutral to you, somewhere between the two. And then support yourself as you need. If your chest and your shoulders are tight today, take the hands out a little wider, maybe turn them to a bit of a V shape. And we'll support those joints that are closest to the floor as much as possible. So a lot of people, when they come into this position, they feel it in their wrists. So what I'd like you to do is externally rotate your arms. So without moving your hands, twist your arms slightly so that the soft inner parts of your elbows are facing away from each other. So they're facing sort of forward towards maybe your pointer fingers. And then imagine a secondary source of gravity on the ceiling lifting you up so the back of the neck engages, the shoulders move away from each other. You're kind of pushing the floor away. And then bring a little bit of weight into the pinky toes and the pinky fingers. So you're sure to be spreading the weight through the whole palm and the whole top of the foot. From here, lengthen the spine, let the belly soften and the back engage to stretch the front of the body. And then round the spine, engaging the front like a little sit-up pose to stretch the back of the body. Come through a long tabletop, lift your tailbone to the sky where the wall meets the ceiling behind you. And then round your body, tuck that tail between the knees. Now notice your shoulders. As your tail lifts, your shoulders circle back and down the spine. So the heart is really reaching forward between your hands. And as your tail tucks down between the legs, the shoulder blades move away from one another. Let's find that movement one more time with your breath. And then come back to a tabletop pose and come into your version of child's. Maybe take the knees wide, sink your seat back towards your feet. You can rest down onto your forearms, maybe supporting your head with your hands. You could also bring your head and chest a little closer to the floor if you'd prefer, bringing hand on top of hand or fist on top of fist and kind of cocooning in towards yourself. Another option is to reach the arms forward or tuck them behind. Regardless of which position you find yourself in, welcome the breath to the back of the body. Easy, comfortable breath in and out through the nose. When you're ready, we're coming back up to tabletop pose. Bring your knees back in if they were wide. Let's inhale into cow pose, softening the belly, engaging the back of the body. Exhale, round the spine. Inhale, cow pose again. And this time, as you exhale, sinking back towards child's pose. Inhale, come forward into cow's pose. You're looking forward, soften the belly, engage the back. Exhale through table to child. So I want you to externally rotate, really push into those hands. Inhale in table, pushing through the arms. Exhale to child's. 2 more times. Inhale, softening the belly. Exhale, back. And with your own breath, even if that's not the same rhythm as my cueing, know that you can always catch up to us whenever your breath allows. We'll come back up to kneeling, and this time find a high kneeling shape. So here you're really pressing into the pinky toe sides of your feet to support you here. Hands can be on the waist. If you're feeling a little imbalanced, you can bring your hands in front of you onto a chair, onto the wall. If you have blocks, you can use your blocks. We're going to inhale to step your left foot forwards. And as you exhale, we're going to hinge forward to stretch the front of your back leg. Come back to center on your inhale. Move your front heel as close as to your body as you can without lifting your heel as you exhale. So now we're stretching the front of the back leg and the front knee and the ankle. So remember that it takes a lot of effort to do this without having your hands down on anything. So feel free to place hands down to the floor, onto a chair, onto the wall, anything that will support you here. We'll do this 2 more times, only moving into a range of motion that feels within your control. Moving with your breath. Now we're going to step onto the other side, so switching legs. As you bend your front knee, make sure that that knee is pointing towards your second or your third toe. And then again, slide your foot as close to your body as you can, that you're getting a big stretch for your ankles and a big stretch for your knee, but the heels don't lift even as you hinge forward. So if your heel's lifting as you hinge forward, it's maybe a little too far. You're inhaling to come up, exhaling to hinge with your breath. Now, the next time you're up in this high lunge shape, bringing the hands down towards the ground, curl your back toes under and come all the way up to standing. If that doesn't work for you, just come all the way up to standing. I'm going to face you, but you can still face the same direction. So you'll have the right foot forward and the left foot back. And then for a moment, bend your left knee and just step into mountain pose. So you're standing nice and tall. Now, in your mountain pose, you want to have the same engagement through the legs as we had through the arms in our table pose. So lift all 10 toes and notice the ball of your big toe, the ball of the baby toe, and the center of the heel become really obvious here. You can bring your toes back down to the mat, and I want you to imagine those 3 places are kind of like the outer edges of a suction cup. So as you're rooting down through those 3 points of your feet, the rest of the foot is buoyant, the rest of the foot is engaged, the rest of the foot is taut. And then just as we externally rotated the arms when our hands were on the floor, leaving your feet where they are, you're going to externally rotate those legs. So for just a moment, take your feet into a V position, like a dancer's first position, if you are familiar, V shape, and notice which muscles you had to use to take the feet from straight ahead to V. Bring your feet back to straight ahead, keep them planted, but engage those same muscles. And notice how you have this feeling almost like you're zipping up through the center of your body. To me, it feels like my knees lift, everything kind of engages, and I'm not just sinking down into gravity. Positioning equal weight through both feet, 3 points of the feet, external rotation of the thighs. Keeping those principles in mind, we're going to take a little micro step back with the left foot. Make sure when you step back, you're still on two separate tracks, like you were on a bicycle, and two separate pedals. And here, as you took this little step back, can you still feel the weight equal on both feet? Can you still root through knuckle of the big toe, knuckle of the pinky toe, center of the heel? Can you still externally rotate? You're going to keep stepping back with that left leg to your maximum. And your maximum is just before you lose connection with one of those principles. So maybe the heel lifts, or maybe the knees buckle in, something that tells you that's a little too far. So find where your maximum is, and your body's not my body. They're going to be a little different. Make sure you're not locking the back knee, so there's no sense of pressure pushing out through that back knee. And now imagine your hips had headlights, and if your hip points had headlights, they were pointing straight ahead of you. Take an inhalation, and as you exhale, crisp fold over your front hip, soften your knees a little, send your bum way back in space, and hinge forward. Make sure those hip headlights are still facing forward, maybe down slightly, but they're not turning to the side. Come back up. We're going to try and keep a straight spine. So engage through the spine, hinge through the hips. So the only thing that's moving is this hip hinge. And once you're gone to your maximum, you come back up. So as soon as you feel like your spine is going to curl, either your tail is going to tuck or your shoulders are going to curve, that's your maximum. Maybe you're just bobbing down a little bit, maybe a lot. Make sure your weight stays equal in both feet. Triangle of the feet. 2 or 3 more breaths. It's like a mental exercise and a physical one. As you next come up to tall, we'll take a bend of your back knee. See if you can float that back foot to come to stand, even if it's a wobbly float. And then reconnect to those points of your mountain pose. The triangle of the feet, external rotation of the legs, weight equal on both feet, and you're not blowing out through your back knee. So I always keep a little bounce in my step. Little step back with your right foot, check in with those pieces. Keep stepping back to your maximum. Hip headlights are forward. Now we're hinging over the front hip. Go really small and notice what that feels like. I'm kind of, as I hinge forward, I'm kind of sending my left bum back, softening my knees slightly, and being really conscious I don't drop my head or tuck my tail. Lifting the heart forward. You can have your hands stacked one on top of the other on your back, into the hip creases. They could be on the side of the head, whatever feels best for you. No rush here, moving at your own speed. Maybe one more. Really great. Coming back up, bending your back knee, and see if you can float yourself back. Woo! I'm a wobbly float there. Just standing. Take a couple of breaths here.
Keeping the legs externally rotated and engaged, we're going to rise up to the balls of the feet only so high that the knuckle of the big toe can stay down, and then lower down. So as soon as you start to feel your ankles wobble out to the side, just lower back down, even if those are just little tiny bounces. Rising straight up without too much of a wobble forward, driving down through the ball of the big toe. You got this. One more time. Awesome. And now we're going to come towards a wall or stairs, anything you can hold onto that's not going to move, the back of the couch, a heavy piece of furniture that's not going to fall on you. So the wall is just there, or the support is just there, meaning if you were to take your hand away, you're not leaning or falling in any direction. From here, keep your spine neutral. Try to move just the leg and the hip socket. Take your right knee in towards your chest. Take hold of the back of the right leg and pull it a little bit higher. If that's not working on its own, don't use a chair that has wheels on it, but you can bring your leg up onto something as well. That's an option for you as well, to bring the leg up onto something. Now, if you're on something, or if you're holding it, you're going to keep your leg where it is and let go. If you're on something, you're going to hover for 5, 4, 3. Don't forget to breathe. 1. Step down. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. So straight ahead of you, bend the knees close to your chest as you can. Give it a squeeze. If that doesn't work for you, step it as high as you can onto something that's high. And then either lift off or let go for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and step it down. We're going to do the same thing now, side to side. Your goal this time is to breathe while you're counting. So now, same idea, but the leg's going to go out to the side, only as far as it can go while keeping your hip headlights forward, then as high as you can go. And then either lift off or let go for 5, 4 while you breathe. In and breathing out. 2, 1. Step it down. Same thing on the other side. In, externally rotation. Grab it high. And then let go for 5, 4. Don't forget to breathe. 3, 2, 1. Step it down. Make some figure 8s with those hips. As big as you can. Get into the corners. Get way back. Get way forward. Amazing work. Coming back to your mountain pose for just one more. We're going to do little baby chair poses. So just notice I'm bending at my hips. I'm bending at my knees. I'm bending at my ankles. I'm standing. So there's a little hinge for your hips, little bend for your knees, over the toes for the ankles. And then as far as feels comfortable for you, so there's no pain or pinching, send your knees over just to one foot and come back. So your feet stay where they are, but your knees go side to side, just to create a little bit of resilience. If that doesn't feel good, then do any little version of chair that feels good. If this feels just fine, maybe your mini chair turns into a little bit of a bigger chair. We're only going to do it for one more time per side. Go and scan. Shake that out as much as you want. We're going to come to lie onto the back in time. Take your time to get there. So whenever I lie on my back, I like to have a little folded blanket behind my head. I have a hoodie on today, so I get like double support. Whatever feels good for you. Take a moment or two just to move however your body's craving. I love coming onto my back at the end of a day of working at my desk, because it just kind of, especially on my back on the floor, I mean like the hard floor, because I find it just like works out all of my
the tension in my spine that's been like tangling up all day. So once you found yourself in as comfortable a position as possible, go ahead and bend the knees, bring your feet down to the floor, and reconnect once again to that sensation of the triangle of the feet. So if your feet are too close to your bum, you might not be able to connect down through the heel. If the feet are too far away, you might not be able to connect through the ball of the foot. So just find a happy medium. And then really envision the place where the leg bone plugs into the hip socket. It's like a ball in a baseball mitt, ball and socket joint. Without any other part of your body moving, we're just going to let both legs float away from one another, moving just at that leg socket, and then back towards one another. Out away from each other and back towards one another. And then make the movement that you're doing half the size and notice that both your legs are moving at the same time. If it feels like one leg is moving before the other, bring your attention a little more to the slower of the two. Maybe you're coordinating this with the movement of the breath, maybe not. Let this grow only as big as it can move, just the leg bone in the hip socket. So the hips themselves don't change shape and the spine doesn't change shape. So you're not going to feel this in your back, in the back of the head, in the shoulders. It's just a simple forward and back movement, like a swing being blown by the wind. Be sure you're not clenching or holding your breath. Release the thighs, release your seat. About 3 more breaths. And then I'll encourage you to move for a moment or two, however your body's craving. In just a minute, we're going to move into a mindful practice. And I always like to leave a little bit of time for us to practice that guided and then in silence. So taking 2 minutes or so, just 2 minutes to move or be still, practice whatever it is your body is craving. Maybe it's a pose we already did in class, or it's something that we neglected to do today. Maybe it's something that some homework that you were given by your chiropractor, your physiotherapist that you haven't gotten around to yet. Or maybe it's something completely different, something that just feels needed in your body. Maybe you stand up to dance or jump around a little bit. Just 2 minutes to let your body guide this practice. Well, really, just 1 more minute now. And then as you wrap that up, I'll invite you to come to any comfortable position where your body can be at rest, but your mind can stay active and present. So that could be lying down, sitting up, on your side, on your belly. It could be in your favorite place on the couch or in your favorite chair. Once you land in that space, take a moment to practice the same centering techniques that we used at the beginning of class, whereby you feel all the connections of your body to the ground beneath you, the cushion, the floor, the mat, whatever it might be. And then use your ears to listen as far away as you can back to the simple sound of your own existence. And as you settle into this shape, be aware of the way you thought this pose would feel, and that idea melting with how it actually feels to create this reality for you. So, tuning into not just the imagined sense of rest you might get in the shape you're in, but tuning into and seeking a true level of physical comfort where the muscles of the body, or the most number of muscles on your body, can relax as much as possible. And then choosing a point of focus to help your mind settle into this shape, just as we use props and adjustments to find physical comfort, using a point of focus or an anchor point in this practice. So, if you already have one that resonates with you, I'll invite you to use that same breath practice. Otherwise, we'll move to our breath practice where we take the thumb and place it on the index or the pointer finger. Take a breath in as though we're taking it in through this little center space we've created, this hole between the finger and the thumb. Breathing out through the same space. And then pausing for just a moment for the thumb to slide to the middle finger, breathing in another shared stuff feed through the fingers and out to the ring finger, to the pinky finger. And for the next couple of minutes, I'm going to leave you to practice this on your own. If you find yourself drifting towards sleep, I find it really helpful to make little circles as I make contact between the two fingers, or just gently tap, 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 tap those two fingers, or to leave my eyes gently open and gazing on a single point. In and out. And you're going to transition to the next finger between the exhale and the next inhale. If you get distracted or drift towards sleep on your next exhale, just find a finger again. Inhale through that little circle space. Exhale through that space. Switch finger. After your next exhalation, letting the fingers stretch out, starting to move the body slowly, small circles to large stretches, whatever feels best in your body. Take your time to transition to a different shape. Maybe if you're on your back, you'll roll to your side, or if you're on your side, you'll come to seated. Any comfortable shape just a second or a new shape of the body to really bring yourself out of that practice and into this present moment. And as you feel a little more present and aware of the space around and within you, you're welcome to join me up into a seated shape to end our practice together. So I'll invite you to come to any comfortable seated shape you'd like. Take some time to find a comfortable shape so that the end of your practice serves you just as much as the pieces between. And you're welcome to join me in taking a moment to thank the people upon whose land we practice. Maybe take a moment to thank the other people that practiced alongside you from their corners of the world. Thanking the lineage of yoga, the teachers that brought the practice to us and its rich and varied history. Maybe taking just a moment to finally thank yourself for having made time for your practice, a feat in itself.